and we're in the middle of a crisis. We have to consider the region as a whole. And I was talking to President Macron about this crisis and about what is going on in Gaza. We talked about various aspects, and we talked about the efforts to contain the crisis so that we can minimize the repercussions. And His Excellency the President and myself intend to deploy more efforts to prevent escalation in the region. The efforts are concentrated on the need to contain the problems, particularly in the Gaza Strip. And this means that we have to try and reduce the impact of the spiral of violence through which we are going now. And this will have an impact on the whole region. We need to act so that we try and prevent degradation of the conditions in the region and bring some pressure to bear so that escalation does not happen in the Gaza Strip. We would like to underline the fact that President Macron understands very well the idea of having to move populations and the reason why people had to flee. And we agree that there's a big danger in this, and for the regional stability and the solution of two states is the most obvious one. And we've been working on it for 20 years or so, and much suffering has happened because of the problem of these two states. We agreed that Palestinians can't be made to leave their territory. They are on their own territory, and the solution has to be within their territory. So the objective is to contain the Hamas and the armed bands that are there, and we all know that this is, after the experience we've just had, that it requires a lot of effort to avoid a total invasion. And I would like to underline that this would have a colossal consequence. It would entail many victims, in particularly civilian victims, and so far there are about 6,000 victims, people who died on the civilian side in the Gaza Strip, and mainly women and children. We have to take all this into consideration, and also the fact that civilians are there, and when they're faced with military actions, they have no recourse. And something else that we both think is that a lot has to be done for humanitarian aid and supplies to be allowed through, and so that the 2 or 3 million people who are there with nothing can be relieved. And there's no electricity, there's no fuel, very little food. This has a serious impact on the humanitarian situation, and we agree that we want to move the humanitarian aid as much as possible. Thank you, President, for having planned on sending a hospital ship out to the region for the Palestinians. Also, we have underlined how important it is to free more hostages and all the people detained in the Gaza Strip, and this would help towards de-escalation. More of these hostages have to be set free that the Hamas holds. In Egypt, we want to play a positive role because we understand what's going on. We've had many times the experience of the Palestinian difficulties, and we know that it requires deep down resolution. And can we really fight terrorism? As I was telling President Macron, the idea of fighting terrorism started from the Palestinian camps, and because of the desperate situation, a total lack of hope of being able to have a state which is in a normal neighborhood and normal relationship with its neighbor, Israel. This hope has never led to anything. We've seen everything that's been happening, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, for example, the colonization and its expansion. All this has fueled hate and anger. We need to stop this situation. We want to reactivate the peace process in the region, and as regards a solution with two states, we agreed with President Macron that we need to all work together towards that objective. For the time being, the first thing is to let the aid through, and after that, once again, I would like to thank, in my own name and in the name of everyone around here, President Macron for deploying many efforts and for having come here to try and help to contain the crisis. We are certainly going to be successful because what we have in mind before everything is the fate of the victims. And we really would like to strive for positive results, and thank you for the efforts you have deployed. You went to Israel, you went to Jordan, you went to Ramallah, and now you are in Egypt. You've done all this in 2 days. Congratulations. We want to tell you that we are grateful for these efforts, and we want to thank France. In Egypt, France has many friends. We are capable of working hand in hand with you, and we are doing this to work for peace and for the resolution of this conflict, which is bringing about too many victims, and particularly against civilians. We solemnly condemn all these acts which are against civilians. They have nothing to do with the hate and anger of the situation we're in today, and it's very important to remember this. Civilians all around the world are civilians. The floor is yours, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I am very happy to be here in Cairo once again. We've had a strategic dialogue over many years, and now we're in a very serious moment. As you said, we're going through a very somber time, and in moments such as this, we have to do what we can to prevent escalation and renewed tension. Nothing justifies a terrorist attack such as Hamas committed against Israel. France condemned it straight away and recognized that Israel has a right to defend themselves, but the rules of international law and the humanitarian rules must be respected. Today, the situation is very tense and there's a risk of escalation, and we need urgent action. The first thing, and I want to thank you very particularly, Mr. President, thank you for your efforts, and thank you also to Qatar, is to liberate the over 200 hostages that Hamas detains. Unfortunately, we have 9 French or binational hostages, but all hostages must be liberated as soon as possible. Thank you for the efforts that you have been deploying right since the beginning, since the 7th of October. It's very important. Then I want to thank you because in this context, your leadership and what you've done so far, particularly at the Cairo summit last Saturday, is very remarkable. You are trying to find a fast solution to this long-standing drama. I heard also the alarm of the King of Jordan about double standards, because I've just come back from Amman. And it's quite clear France has no double standards. International law applies to everyone. France has always supported universal and humanistic values. And there's no hierarchy in this. All victims should be avoided, and we are sorry for them, we feel for them, whoever they are. As President Sisi just said, what we want to build is a peace initiative for peace and security and avoid escalation. And this goes back to the original moves, such as one of the principles is fighting terrorism, because what happened on the 7th of October against women, babies, children, adults, cannot be justified in any way, and also against our French citizens. 31 were killed. We must not give in to terrorism, and you did a lot in Egypt about terrorism, and I know you understand this. The first pillar is reinforced cooperation for information and targeting, and to all agree that the right response is to cooperate and to draw the conclusions of what happened against Daesh, where we've been committed for many years, and take all the measures that we need to take for the groups, including those that touch us in Paris. And there's a regional and international cooperation. We have to also protect what needs protecting and eradicate as much as possible these terrorist groups. It's part of the long-term effort that we are making internationally, and Egypt and France both know about this combat about terrorism. Second pillar, protection of civilian populations. As you reminded us, Mr. President, the Palestinians need protection. There's humanitarian support that is on its way. And I know how much Egypt is doing for the Gaza population. I also mentioned it yesterday. with the King of Jordan, who is also very committed, and there's a hospital which they are supporting so that it stays open. And as I was saying to Prime Minister Netanyahu and also to Mahmoud Abbas, the point is that France has been doing a lot for access to water to be guaranteed and electricity to be restored so that hospitals can reopen. This is extremely urgent, as also concurred with the United Nations agency that I met this morning. The situation is such that we have to move all together. France, as you know, is there to support this effort. We've increased also our aid by 10 million euros last week for the population of Palestine. And we want the corridors to be fully open. A French airplane is going to land tomorrow with medical supplies, and others will be sent afterwards. We want to make sure that people get medicine, drugs, and medical support. And as I was saying to my various partners that I met, we've also decided that a ship of our national navy will be taking off very soon to go to the coast of Gaza within 48 hours. We are also committing financial means. In Gaza and in the West Bank, we want to help protect women and children. And thank you for your cooperation in protecting our French citizens who are there. There are 54 that we need to protect them, and we have about 170 French citizens who are employed in French institutions, and we want to protect them. Then the third pillar, we had terrorism, protection of the populations. The third one is political. It's the most difficult one, but it is the cause of all the bad feelings in the region, and the result is what we see today. With President Sisi, we were talking a few months ago of the legitimate claim of the Palestinians to have a political solution. We were just thinking at the time that it wasn't in the limelight anymore, and Egypt was still very intent on bringing this to the table. And we need to take the moves to reach the solution of two states that can live next door and in security. It will probably take a lot before we get to that point. We'll have to find new ways and innovate, but this political path is necessary because it's what will channel the anger that people have, and it won't be channeled through violence, but through a legal framework, and that's what we have to do. We've waited too long about this. It's urgent and important, and has to be done at the same time as combating terrorism. That's why, thank you for what you just said. I think we agree that we want to carry with all those who wish so an initiative with three pillars: combating terrorism, protecting populations with humanitarian aid, and the political progress for a settlement of the Palestinian problem. And this must be compatible with Israel's security. We understand that at all points that has to also be guaranteed. And with these conditions, we might have peace in the region. The capability for all the states of the region to accept the presence of Israel and its right to be safe, and also to recognize the state of Palestine that also should live peacefully. That is the only way to avoid escalation, and we need to act all together around these three pillars. Well, thank you, President, once again. And with President Sisi, we thought we would reinforce our partnership. We have common views for the general strategic point of view, and we're also going to work hand in hand. And if I may say so, I would very much like us to reinforce this line, this avenue, because I think it is fair, respectful, and efficient. Thank you, President.